one of the towns of the diaspora, there lived a Jew who was a judge of horses, jewelry, and men, and he made his livelihood through this ability. It so happened that the king in the nearby capital was shown a large diamond necklace which he wanted to give as a gift to his wife, the queen. The king sent for the Jew, who appeared at the king's palace, examined the necklace, and then gave his opinion. The diamonds are false and have no value, not even 1,000th of the price that is demanded. The king was pleased he had saved money, and gave the Jew a small coin. The Jew thanked the king and returned home. After a short time, the king wanted to add a fine horse to his stock. He chose a noble horse from those shown to him. Before mounting it, he remembered the Jew who was a judge of horses, and he called for him. The Jew came, examined the horse, and said, "My king, you must not mount this horse. He is wild, and he who rides him will be killed." The king laughed at the Jew's words and had in mind mounting the horse. His advisers, however, suggested that one of the king's horsemen try out the horse beforehand. At first the horseman rode well. Then the spectators turned pale. They saw the horse begin to prance. He had become wild, and the rider, as experienced as he was, lost his balance. The wild horse threw him to the ground, where he lay without a breath of life. As a token of thanks that his life had been saved, the king gave the Jew a small coin. The Jew thanked the king and returned home. After a short time, the Jew was called to the king again. This time the king asked him, "Tell me, who am I?" "Who are you?" "You are a simple peasant and no more," answered the Jew. "What?" asked the king angrily, having expected praise. "How dare you talk like that to a king? I shall have you imprisoned for your insolence." Whereupon he ordered his guards to shackle the Jew. That night the king came to his mother, the queen, and asked her in excitement, "Mother, tell me, who am I?" "What do you mean, who are you? You are a king and the son of a king. Your grandfather and his grandfather were kings," was the reply. But the king was not satisfied and shouted angrily, "Tell me the truth! Who was my father?" When his mother saw the king so excited, a great fear crept into her heart, and she revealed the truth. "You are a peasant's son." "What are you hinting at?" asked the king in astonishment. "Sit down and I shall tell you. Years ago, numbering the years of your life, I gave birth to my firstborn son. 2 days later, his father, the king, died, and the next day, the child died too. I grieved deeply, but before the death of my child was known, I sent one of my trusted servants to a peasant woman who had given birth to a son the very day of my own son's birth. I requested my servant to steal the peasant's child. I was a faithful mother, as you know, but you are but a peasant's son." When the queen mother had finished speaking, the king hurried to the prison. He entered the Jew's cell and said, "I have come to set you free, but before I do, answer me one question. Why did you say I was a peasant?" "It is very simple," answered the Jew. "When I saved you the money you wanted to spend on the diamond necklace, you sent me off with a coin. I kept quiet. I saved your life, and what is more precious to a man than his own life? But you sent me off with a coin. I kept quiet, but in my heart, I knew that you were not a king. A king does not behave so. And who behaves that way? A simple peasant." Once there was a wicked priest who hated Jews. One day he summoned the chief rabbi and said to him, "I want to have a dispute with a Jew in the language of signs. I give you 30 days to prepare yourself, and if nobody appears to take part in the dispute, I shall order that all the Jews be killed." What was the rabbi to do? He brought the bad tidings to his people and ordered them to fast and to pray in the synagogue. A week went by, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but there was no one with the courage to accept the priest's challenge and the great responsibility. It was already the 4th week, and still there was no one to represent the Jews in the dispute. Then along came a poultry dealer who had been away bringing chickens from the nearby villages into the town. He had not heard what was going on there, but he noticed on his arrival that the market was closed, and at home he found his wife and children fasting, praying, and weeping. "What is the matter?" asked the poultry dealer. His wife replied, "The wicked priest has ordered a Jew to hold a discussion with him in the language of signs. If there is no one who is able to do so, all of us will be killed." "Is that all the matter?" wondered the poultry dealer in surprise. "Go to the rabbi and tell him that I am ready to participate." "What are you talking about? How can you understand the priest? Greater and wiser men than you have not been willing to take upon themselves this task," cried his wife. "Why should you worry? In any case, we shall all be killed." And off they went to the rabbi. "Rabbi," said the man, "I am ready to meet the priest." The rabbi blessed him. "May God help you and bring you success." So the priest was told that a Jew, sent by the rabbi, would hold a discussion with him in sign language. "You have to understand my signs and to answer them in the same way," explained the priest to the Jew before a great assembly. Then he pointed a finger to him. In reply, the Jew pointed 2 fingers. Then the priest took a piece of white cheese from his pocket. In reply, the Jew took out an egg. Then the priest took the seeds of some grain and scattered them on the floor. In reply, the Jew set a hen free from the coop and let it eat up the seeds. "Well done!" exclaimed the priest in amazement. "You answered my questions correctly." And he gave the poultry dealer many gifts, and ordered his servant to bathe him and to give him fine garments to wear. "Now I know that the Jews are wise men, if the most humble among them was able to understand me," admitted the priest. The town was in great excitement, and the people waited in suspense for the result of the dispute. When they saw the poultry dealer leaving the priest's house in fine garments and with a happy expression on his face, they understood that everything was in order. Blessed be the Almighty. "How did it go? What did the priest ask you?" all the people wanted to know. The rabbi called the poultry dealer to his home and asked him to relate what had happened. And this is what the poultry dealer related. "The priest pointed with 1 finger to my eyes, meaning to take out my eye. I pointed with 2 fingers to imply I would take out both of his eyes. Then he took out a piece of cheese to show that I was hungry while he had cheese. So I took out an egg to show that I was not in need of his alms. Then he spilled some wheat grain on the floor. So I fed my hen, knowing it was hungry, and thinking what a pity to waste the grain." At the same time, the priest's friends questioned him. "What did you ask the Jew? What did he reply?" The priest related, "At first I pointed 1 finger, meaning there is only 1 king. He pointed with 2 fingers, meaning that there are 2 kings, the king in heaven and the king on earth. Then I took out a piece of cheese, meaning, is this cheese from a white or a black goat? In answer, he took out an egg, meaning, is this egg from a white or a brown hen? Finally, I scattered some grain on the floor, meaning that the Jews are spread all over the world. Whereupon he freed his hen, which ate up all the grain, meaning that the Messiah will come and gather all the Jews from the 4 corners of the world." Shah Abbas, the king, liked justice and righteousness. Evening after evening, he used to disguise himself and roam around the streets of the town in order to get to know more about his subjects. Generally, he used to disguise himself as a dervish and go to the outskirts of the town to share the life of the needy. Once, on his usual route, he was struck by a dim light. When he came nearer, he saw a humble cottage. A man was sitting inside, in front of his meal, singing songs and benedictions. Shah Abbas entered and asked, "Is a guest welcome here?" "A guest is the Lord's gift, sir. Sit down, please, and join me." Shah Abbas sat down, and the man entertained him freely. They talked about this and that. Asked Shah Abbas, "What is your trade? What do you do for a living?" Replied the man, "I am a cobbler. During the day, I wander around the town mending people's shoes. With the pennies I earn, I buy food in the evening. Asked Shah Abbas, "And what of tomorrow?" Answered the shoemaker, "Blessed be God, day by day." Shah Abbas went on sitting with the man and enjoyed the conversation. Then he parted from him, saying, "Tomorrow I will come again." Shah Abbas returned home, and the next morning he put up a proclamation in the streets of the town prohibiting the repair of shoes without a permit. When Shah Abbas came the next evening to visit the man, he found him eating, drinking, and enjoying life as before. He asked him, "What have you done today?" "On leaving home, I heard the Shah's herald proclaiming that the repair of shoes was prohibited. I went on my way and started to draw water for some of the citizens. Thus I earned my daily bread." "I worried about you very much," said Shah Abbas, "when I heard that mending shoes was forbidden. Now what will you do if the king forbids drawing water?" The cobbler answered, "Blessed be God, day by day." Shah Abbas went home, and the following morning he prohibited the drawing of water. When Shah Abbas came the next evening to visit the cobbler, he found him eating, drinking, and enjoying life as before. He greeted him and asked, "What have you done today?" The cobbler told him, "I chopped wood and thus earned my daily bread." Shah Abbas asked, "And what if tomorrow the chopping of wood is forbidden?" "Blessed be God, day by day," answered the cobbler. They both sat together as usual and passed the time pleasantly. On parting, the disguised king promised to come the next evening. Early the following morning, the Shah's herald proclaimed that all wood choppers were to be recruited into the king's guard. The cobbler went to the palace and was given a sword and sent on guard. Evening came, and he went to a shop and pledged his sword blade to the shopkeeper. Then he bought his usual food and went home. There he took a piece of wood, made a wooden blade, attached it to his sword hilt, and put it into its sheath. In the evening the disguised king came again to the humble cottage and asked, "What is new? What have you done today?" The man told him, "I was on guard in the palace, and I did not earn any money. So I gave my sword blade as a pledge to the shopkeeper, and bought my usual food. Now I have made a wooden blade." The king asked, "What will happen if there is a sword inspection tomorrow?" The man answered, "Blessed be God, day by day." Next morning the officer in charge of the palace guard called the cobbler and handed over a prisoner to him, saying, "This prisoner has been sentenced to death, and you are ordered to behead him." Pleaded the cobbler, "I have never in my life killed a man. I cannot do so." The officer in charge commanded, "Do as you have been told." The man clasped the hilt of his sword in one hand and grasped the sheath in the other. Then he proclaimed before the people assembled for the execution, "Almighty One in heaven, it is known to you that I am not a murderer. If this prisoner is marked for death, let my sword be of steel. But if the prisoner is innocent, let the steel blade turn into wood." And saying this, he pulled out the blade. And lo, it was wood. The assembled crowd watched in silent amazement. Then Shah Abbas called the cobbler, embraced and kissed him, revealed his identity, and appointed him as one of the court advisors. Two beggars used to wander in the streets day by day, collecting alms. On their way they used to pass the king's palace, and he always gave them charity. One of the beggars always praised the king for his goodness and generosity. The other one used to thank God that he was generous to the king and enabled him to help his subjects. This was painful to the king, and once he said to the beggar, "It is I who am generous to you, and you offer thanks to someone else." The beggar answered, "If God were not bountiful, you would not be able to give." One day the king ordered his baker to bake two similar loaves of bread and to put precious stones in only one of them, as a gift from the king. Then he ordered that the loaf with the jewels be given to the beggar who praised the king, and the ordinary loaf to the other beggar. The baker took care not to mix up the two loaves. He handed the one with the treasure to the beggar who praised the king, and the ordinary one to the beggar who praised God. When the two beggars left the palace, the beggar who praised the king observed that his loaf was heavy and seemed to be badly baked. He asked his friend to exchange loaves with him. His friend, wanting to do a good turn, agreed, whereupon they parted, each going his own way. The beggar who praised God began to eat, and of course he found the treasure in the bread. He offered thanks to God that he would not have to go to the palace each day and stretch out his hand for alms. The king was very surprised that this beggar no longer came, and he asked the baker, "Did you not make a mistake when you handed over the 2 loaves of bread to the beggars?" The baker answered, "I did exactly as you ordered, my king." The king asked the beggar, "What did you do with the loaf of bread that was given to you the other day?" Replied the beggar, "The loaf was hard, and it did not seem to be well baked, so I exchanged it with my fellow beggar." Now the king understood that riches come from God alone. Only He can turn a rich man into a poor man, and a poor man into a rich man. The decision and the will of a man, be he even a king, may not be realized. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.